In today's session, I play 100% of the hands dealt to me, 100% VPIP, an unbelievable episode I can't wait for you guys to watch. But first, let's get to the TCH.
Good, brother. What's going on? Hi.
We are opening things up just after playing a pretty massive double PLO bomb pot that we ended up chopping against Mallory. We find ourselves fighting for our lives once again. The double straddle to $20 is on when I look down at King 6 of clubs in early position. To be honest, at this point in the session, I haven't decided if I'm going to play 100% of hands, but I know I'm going to be action and I'm here to have a good time. I race to 60. The big blind and the straddle, both of the straddles, make the call. We're going four ways to a flop where we end up with a beautiful nut flush draw. This is a board that's probably going to be best for me as it is ace high, so when the action checks over to me, we have a very easy c-bet for about half the size of the pot. Action's back over to Mallory, who decides to play her top two pair quick as hell and decides to raise to 300. With the action folding back to me, we have one or two options and they're very obvious. I can call and I guess see what happens on the turn, or I can just put the money all in here and run it twice because I know my opponent's going to want to do that. So after a little bit of thought, and I mean, when I say a little bit, I really mean it. I put maybe 35 milliseconds into this, and I decided to just stick it all in for 1.1 thousand US dollars. Action's back over to Mallory, who shrugs it and then calls it off. We're running two boards here. Any club will suffice. We also have some backdoor equity if need be. The turn card on the first board is a 5 of spades, followed by the 10 of hearts. No bueno. The second board comes out with the 3 of hearts on the turn and then the 9 of diamonds on the river. Looks like we're not going to be improving there. A little bit unfortunate, but as they say, we'll live to fight another day. Okay, so we lose the first one, but that's never stopped us before. I promise you, it's not stopped me today. There's a couple of limps till the action gets over to the cutoff, who's a great friend of mine, Mr. Studio Paul. He decides to isolate to $55. I am in the blind here, and I look down at King 9 offsuit. Good enough to go with. As you guys know, we're playing every single hand this session. I go ahead and make the call. There's like 3 limpers, they all make the call, and the flop comes out giving me top pair with the flush draw out there. So my hand's not very good with how bad my kicker is, but we do have some backdoor flush equity, backdoor straight draws to be a little bit happy about, and at the end of the day, I do got top pair in a Texas action-packed game. So when the action checks over to one of the limpers, Mr. 3 Coins, shout out to Randy, another wonderful person that we met here down in Texas. He's joining us from Dallas, making the trek over to Austin. He decides to throw out a little bit of a feeler bet and leads out for $55. With the action getting over to the ISO player, Mr. Studio Paul decides to raise it to 180. Action gets over to me here in the big blind, and I'm kind of a bit confused here. Definitely have to be worried about Paul having a hand like ace king or king queen or even aces, but again, I am a guest here. It would be a little bit goofy, I think, for me to just toss top pair at this exact moment, and even more so against these two specific players. Paul is definitely good for the game, great action, and if I'm going to lose, at least I lose to a fellow subscriber, a friend, or Randy's in the hand, and you definitely know Randy's bringing the heat. He's got the action in him, so why not just join in the festivities? I flick in the call after thinking about it. And then Randy does something I was not expecting. Randy decides to 3-bet this flop to 400. Studio Paul now gets out of the way. He seems like he was full of absolute donkey poop. And with the action on me now, I'm kind of in between two spots. I'm either going to just flick all the money in the middle or fold. It sounds ridiculous, but to be quite fair, there is a really great chance that I'm going to be up against a flush draw or a straight draw, and I don't want to allow my opponent to get away from any turn cards or to check back the turn and give him the benefit in the hand again. And if honestly my opponent ends up folding anything that has equity, that's huge. We get to take down a pot of like $800 without seeing any more cards. That is also wonderful. So I just decided to go all in for $2,000 total. Action gets back over to Randy, who thinks about it for a bit before asking if we'd run it twice. I always let my opponent choose, so I say for sure. Randy ends up flicking in the call, and we're running 2 boards. The first one comes out the 3 of spades, and then the 10 of diamonds on the river. And as you guys can see, Randy's got 10-8 off. Whew. I'm happy we ran it twice, because otherwise we are stone dead. But the second one comes out with the 7 of diamonds on the turn, and the queen of hearts on the river. By the skin of our teeth, we end up holding as a pretty decent favorite, but yeah, unfortunately there we weren't able to scoop what was a freaking huge, ridiculous 4K plus pot. Either way, this game is freaking action. There's some more poker to be had here when the stand-up game is on, and we are all, in fact, standing. This is the first hand in the stand-up game. The action folds to me here. There's a double straddle on, and we look down at queen 10 of diamonds. $60 to go. The cutoff calls, and then the straddler decides to go all in for $600. Yes, that is Mr. Studio Paul, a good friend of ours, as we mentioned. And as we mentioned, Studio Paul is going to be bringing some action. So when the action is on me, I think that just calling here would be a bit of a disaster, as I will definitely invite my opponent behind me with any 2 cards to probably make the call. I think by going all in, I completely remove his equity from the pot and give myself a heads-up chance at whatever the hell Studio Paul has here. So I go ahead and just jam all in for $1,500 effective. Luckily for us, Ryan behind ends up making the fold, and we're going to heads up, and I ask Studio Paul immediately. Obviously, at this point, I don't know what he has, but I tell him that I have a pretty bad hand, being that it is queen high only, and he lets me know that he has an even worse hand. We agree to run it out twice here. It's always fun to run out boards twice, especially when 2 people are being absolute degenerates and gambling like monsters. But anyways, we end up scooping against 7-3, as luckily queen high holds on both boards. Yet again, another massive 1.2k pot going my way. Finally, a W. Continuing along with the random assortment of people that are in this game, Mr. Poker Rhino opens it up to 100. There is no straddle in this hand, so this is just a good old-fashioned 20x. The one thing I will definitely commend my opponent for doing is he's one of the few people that realizes I'm playing 100% of hands. So with me on his direct left, he realizes that if he has a good enough hand to come in with, he's got to really price me out of the hand. Too bad for him, I'm not folding anything, so I go ahead and make the call for this 100 with king 8 offsuit, and we're going heads up to a flop here that gives me a gutter ball. There is 2 spades out there, so, you know, it makes my gutter ball a little less valuable. But when my opponent only bets for 100 now, going half the size of the pot, feels like an easy spot for us to continue, so I go ahead and make the call. The turn card is a queen of spades. If I'm being totally honest and not lying here, I actually did not see the 10 of spades as a 10 of spades. I saw it as a 10 of clubs. To be fair, I probably would have considered folding that flop, even only at a half-size bet, and I would have definitely folded to this all-in jam on the turn from Poker Rhino. But literally, I'm tanking, I'm thinking about my outs here, seeing how clean my outs are, and I'm thinking that, hey, as long as a spade doesn't come on the river to bring that front door flush in, we're good. Little do I know that the front door flush has already come in, so I probably would have folded if I'm being totally honest, but all things considered, at least in real time, I'm thinking 10 of spades is a 10 of clubs, flush draw comes on the turn, little backdoor action, let's gamble. We can make a straight with any jack, we can make a straight with any 7, and we can maybe make a good hand here if we hit a king. So we flick in the call, our opponent shows ace 10 of clubs, the first run out comes out with the king of spades, we get there, oh gosh, and the second one comes out with the 5 of diamonds. Unfortunately for us, running it twice has not been too kind for us today, but we're always going to do what is nice and what the other player requests. So, good hand to you, sir. At least happy. Once again, we weren't losing our entire stack. We are just getting into the thick of it. When this next hand, there is a limp from late position, and then the button Definitely a fun and solid player. Miss Mallory decides to isolate to 125. The straddler makes the call. I'm in the double straddle. I like down a queen jack offsuit. Good enough to call here as well. And the limper calls. We're going 4 ways to a flop where I end up with 2 pair. Seems like we're just running hot today. Action checks over to the button and she decides to c-bet for 250. After a fold, the action gets to me. And something that you might not be expecting, and definitely I wasn't expecting, happens. I shrug my head, I look for a live read, I get a live read, and I just go with it. To be totally fair here without going down the rabbit hole of live reads and absolute nonsense, to be quite fair, there is like no draws on this flop here, and when Mallory isolates for that big of a sizing pre-flop and then goes for this big of a continuation bet on the flop, I'm not really doing good against any of those hands. Like, look, if she's gonna get up here with ace-5 suited and be a Euro superstar, I will tip my cap to Miss Mallory and open the door for her and just put her into the front class, a limousine experience of Euroville. You know what I'm saying? Like, props to her if she can do all that. That is incredible. But to be totally honest, the more than likely hand for anyone playing these stakes here is going to be at minimum top pair, more than likely a hand like aces, kings, and even queens sometimes. So when the action ends up on me, I think of all this pretty fast. I don't have to tank that long, and I just decide, even though it pains me, it fucking pains me, I fold top pair, especially with one player to act behind. Mr. Randy, you never know, he's a wild card, but he ends up folding as well. I asked Mallory pretty quickly, did you make me fold the best hand? And she laughs and shrugs it off and says that she would have showed a bluff. She wasn't lying. She's a sweetheart, told us the truth. She had ace queen. So again, a small thing in the grand scheme of things, but considering I'm playing every single hand, you're going to be faced with tough decisions like this, and making the right one sure as hell feels good. So after making a fold that the nits of the world would have been proud of, we have some more poker to go over. Under the gun jams all in for $800. Just open rips it all in. All right, that's pretty chill. Studio Paul in the cutoff decides to make the call, and the action's now on me in the big blind. I am sick to my stomach. Why? I haven't lost my 100% VPIP tag to this point. Look, I know I could have made the title 100% VPIP even if I only VPIP'd 98% of the hands, but that would have been clickbait. That would have been fake news, but God, it's $800 and I have ace-6. This is awful. We are facing a huge all-in. It's too much money if I'm being totally honest, but 100% VPIP, like, can you blame me? Let's go for it, baby. Fuck it, I'm all in. Let's run it. Studio Paul calls off his extra 400 chips. He has about 1.2k in front of him. Just like that, 2.5k in the middle, and the side pot has over $800 in and of itself. Jeez Louise, this is what dreams are made of. We decide to run the board 2 times. The first board comes out king 996 deuce. So we win the side pot there, but lose the main one. But the second board comes out ace high. Let's go. The turns a sweat as it comes as 7. Any 8 gives Paul the best hand. Any queen gives Rick the best hand. But the river's a jack. It is a brick, ladies and gentlemen. We end up winning the most in the hand here, as we end up winning the side pot completely and chopping the main. You know, no gamble, no future, baby. You already get me on the show. What's up? You guys watching?
Nice little win for Rick.
Gonna take a quick break in the action to let you guys know about today's sponsor. No one, literally no one. I'm the only sponsor of these goddamn vlogs. So, some things to let you guys know about. As I've mentioned, I think in every single video, I'm giving away 2 articles of merchandise every single video for the rest of the year. We have a couple of these videos left to worry about. So, if you guys are interested in any type of merch, it's completely for free. Just comment down below whatever the hell you want. Probably helpful if you let me know your size, and I'll just send out some surprise Christmas package with hopefully something that fits you and something that you like. Something that's actually important to mention on the Splash Squads, this Thursday is December 14th, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, I think. That's what we agreed to. We're going to be hosting our very first ever complete free roll, 100% sponsored by myself. $1,000 going to be given out as our Christmas Day special giveaway, whatever the hell you want to call it. Free roll, I guess, is the right terminology. $1,000. Hop in there. I'll be playing 1, 2, and 25 cent, 50 cent. So log in. Don't put any money, or put some money and we can play afterwards or whatever. I'll also be giving away $100 to every single person that busts me out. So $100 bounty on my head. I definitely recommend that you guys check it out. Outside of that, my eyes are getting absolutely destroyed by the sun. So let me face it this way. Puppies are just hanging out right there. Anyways, outside of that, you guys will probably be watching this Tuesday or Wednesday. We're playing on the Lodge live stream either tonight or tomorrow night. You guys get the point. This Wednesday, the 13th, and then this Thursday, the 14th, we'll be playing on the Lodge live stream. Gonna be playing 2 streams, so if you guys are interested in watching me, I'll be at the Lodge then. Happy New Year, happy holidays, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas. Am I missing any? Probably, but I still love you guys, whatever the hell you celebrate. If you don't celebrate any of them, I guess I'll just go fuck. Either way, I love you guys all so much. Let's get back to the video because we don't have any sponsors for the episode.
Now we find ourselves in some more poker hands. With the straddle is on an early position, the hijack, both decide to limp, the button decides to isolate to 100. I decide a cold call here from the blind, and then we get calls from the early position players. And then the second limper, oh my goodness, decides to 3-bet it to 300. The old back raise, little Euro step, 360, no scope, okay. The button decides to make the call, I call, and then the first limper folds. We're going 3 ways off to a flop where, I mean, I just couldn't make this up. Can I get any more equity, honestly? Like, what? King, Jack, 5. We have 2 clubs, top pair, and a nut, or the second nut flush draw. Action checks over to Mr. 3 Coin, who decides to throw out a bet of 300. Action folds to me, and we are playing a very, very deep. If I'm being quite honest, I don't really know what the hell I'm doing here, but I just decided to go all in. If there's some small chance I could ever get him to fold a slightly better king, then that's awesome. You'll soon find out that is literally impossible. 3 Coin will literally never let you bluff him, ever. So much so that if there's a chance that I have a small baby flush and I'm just trying to beat him off this hand, which granted I will definitely find myself doing sometimes, he calls me off here with 10-9 offsuit, 10 high. He has a gutter ball here and we decide to run it off twice. Yes, you're not reading this incorrectly. This is like an $8,000 pot. I have him drawing like stone dead here. He has 2 outs. Or something like 2 or 3 outs. You get what I'm trying to say here. Let's hold, baby. First run out. A beautiful queen of clubs. He makes a straight, but I make a flush, which is better. And the river card is the deuce of hearts. Let's go, baby. Second one comes out with the 4 of diamonds on the turn. 3 outs, 1 time. Let's see if it comes. Oh, what? The queen of spades. How in the... what? I am absolutely sick to my stomach. I cannot believe we just got 2 or 3 outed there. The pain is obviously real. It's settling in quickly. But if there was anyone in the world that deserves to hit that, it is freaking Mr. Randy. Absolutely wonderful person who's providing so much fun and entertainment in the game. It's only right that he picks off a miracle out on the river. Okay, poker can be a little painful sometimes. The last hand, yeah, that sucked. But early position makes it $60 to go. I'm in late position, and we look down at the old 8-7 offsuit. I decide to make the call, and then the small blind decides to 3-bet to a very tiny min-click sizing of 125. We both decide to make the call here, and 3 ways we're going to a flop where I end up with a gutter ball on a paired board. The small blind continues for a small sizing of 125, about a third the size of the pot. I definitely decide to oblige with mischievous and dangerous intentions for Mr. 3 Coins, Randy. And then the turn card gives us, I guess, some equity. We end up making a pair. Again, not too great, but when my opponent decides to bet once again for 225, it is Randy. He can be capable of some crazy shenanigans. That, coupled with the fact that we just improved to a pair to go along with our gutter ball, I make the call. The river card comes out the 8 of clubs, and after a bit of thinking, I realized that my opponent is not going to give up at this point. He bet $700, a really great bet sizing for my opponent, putting me in a tough spot, and it seems like I've almost played my hand fairly face up. He notices that I probably have at best one pair, technically two pair, but he's going to have all the aces, all the kings, all the queens, and I'm never going to have any of these hands. So after a bit of thinking, I'm a little bit in a tough spot, but to be quite fair, my opponent, it's tough to know if he'd really go for this sizing on this river with aces or kings. It feels like he'd have to have a boat or at least a six to consider doing something like this, which Randy definitely can have. So after a bit of thinking, I even consider bluff raising here because I have triple pair, but I decide that my hand has just way too much showdown value, or equity I should say, to just fold, or to just blast off and raise. So I make the hero call, and luckily this time around it was the right decision. We show our hand and we are good. Big pot finally coming our way. Let's go. We now catch ourselves on the latter half of the session, but I promise you, don't click away, we still have some more fun hands to go over. In this next hand, early position makes it 30. I'm next to act, and I 3-bet with ace-7 offsuit to 125. The cutoff 4 bets now to 225, Mr. Randy 3 coins, and we both decide to make the call. 3 ways to a flop here that comes out, giving me top pair, and there is a flush draw to boot. Early position decides to donk lead to $75. You know what's better than a donkey? Is a donkey by the name of Close to Broke, baby. Let's go. We just flick in the call here. To be quite fair, I feel like raising would be a disaster, but in a 4-bet pot having a7 offsuit, the only real donkey in this hand is myself. The opponent from the small blind, or the cutoff, I should say, Mr. Randy decides to continue with the call, and we're going 3 ways once again to a turn card that comes the 9 of clubs. We're seeing a lot of turns, a lot of rivers, so we got to play these as good as we can because we're playing every single hand today. Early position decides to throw the unthinkable, the double donk lead for $75, the double donk lead, same size. Say that 3 times without falling over your words. I decide to be the biggest donk in the hand as usual and decide to just make the call. And Randy calls along behind us, Mr. 3 coins, 3 ways to a river card. And I mean, is it Christmas, baby? Because it's not often you see the triple donk, same bet. And it happens, ladies and gentlemen. Poker Rhino, the king, the glorious king that he is, throws out the triple 75 lead. Oh my word. Definitely an interesting spot. I think at this point, I clearly have the best hand. I think I do. So raising probably is the best option, but to be quite fair, I mean, it feels a little too thin, so I just flick in the call because it's the easiest thing to do, and then friggin' Randy 3 coins just raises it to 500. Action gets back over to me, and kind of a tricky spot here, but to be quite fair, our hand is unbelievably under-repped here. It's hard for me to have an ace if I just call twice, and in a 4-bet pot, I probably should have strong aces that would consider raising sometimes. But, you know, little do they know that the 2 other players in this hand didn't know that the 3rd player in this hand, Mr. Close to Broke, is actually close to an idiot. I have a7 offsuit. I flick in the call because I just don't know how to do anything else, and we win against pocket jacks. Happy to take that pot down. I told you, you didn't want to miss any of these because they're freaking hysterical. We have one more fun hand to go over in today's session, and I'm happy you didn't click away to this point. There is an $80 straddle on, and technically I could raise, I could quadruple or quintuple straddle, but I decide for the raising purposes of the stream to blind raise to 165 as opposed to just straddling. I don't know, there's a weird thing about VPIP here where if you straddle, it's not considered a VPIP or voluntary put in hand. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Just know that I put 165 in blind. I actually don't know that I have pocket fours here. The small blind limps, the big blind limps, and then the triple straddler limps. I don't have an action here technically because I blind raised. So we're going off to a flop here, and after I see my hand pocket fours, I see 3 overcards. Yeah, not too great, but by some miracle, the action checks to me. Yeah, 4 ways, it would be idiotic for me to put any money in the middle. So when I check and the turn card comes a 4 of spades, I go from feeling like the joker of the castle to the absolute king. I have a set, and there's no way you're going to take this hand away from me. You could literally shoot me in the face, and I will become a zombie, come back to life, and get the hand back from you, baby. Pocket fours, Mr. Ethan's favorite hand in poker, never did me wrong. Early position now leads for 350. Action folds to me, and this is an obvious spot to raise. There are so many random draws that my opponent can have. Straight draws, straight and flush draws, maybe even two pairs like ace 4, ace 5, ace jack, jack 5, all these random hands that I'm just going to be getting value from. So I make it 1,200 to go. After a bit of thought, my opponent decides to go all in for $1,500, and of course I call. This pot has ballooned up to $4,500, and we decide to run the river out twice, and we're up against a big draw. We have middle pair and the nut flush draw for our opponent, king jack of spades. Unlucky for him that only his spades are viable to win the pot. The first river comes out, the 5 of clubs, looking to fade a brick to book a great win on the session, and it comes the 9 of diamonds. Oh man, that is exactly what we needed. Haven't been able to freaking scoop a single pot today, it felt like, and finally we do, in a very big and meaningful one. Today's session was unbelievable in every facet of the imagination. I want to give an absolute super huge thank you to the TCH Austin live stream. Shout out to the commentators, a big shout out to Dante, shout out to all the dealers that were here that were obviously wonderful, and a massive shout out to Studio Paul for coming from LA with me, as well as, last but not least, the most important person, probably Mallory. If it wasn't for Mallory, I would have no way in hell come down to the TCH again this late in the year to play in this cold weather, but she was adamant that I come down, and she did a wonderful job of putting together a special table. So enough of the thank yous. I didn't win an award today, but I did win a little bit of money, so let's talk about that in the post-game session.
I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. I've been there, done it, seen it. Boy, all that like Keenan. And exposed with cat like a cheetah. They smoke my partner like reefer. Dímelo porque o no entiendo, mi gente must really need Jesus.
You're now a day removed from that absolute madness from last night. It's crazy to think, but I did end up the night with 100% VPIP. Kind of something I don't know if it sounds dumb, but I'm pretty proud of it. I ended up being the biggest winner of the night somehow. The one thing I will say, when you play 100% VPIP, you gotta kind of either run really good, which honestly, I don't know how great I ran. If I'm being totally honest, I got it in as a massive favorite a couple times against the king 3 coins Randy, and we chopped a bunch, which was unfortunate, but I feel like we just found a way to get away from it. Made a big fold with top pair just to a single bet that a little nitty, but we did the right thing. Shout out to Mallory. But anyways, I appreciate you guys for watching the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this style of content. I really do enjoy challenging myself, and this was the ultimate challenge. 100% VPIP is absolutely no joke. That'll do it for me in this beautiful city of Austin. We're actually in Dallas now. We're playing another stream tonight, but that'll be for the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay happy, stay healthy, and more importantly, run good at the tables, y'all. Have a wonderful day. Deuces.
I can do this with my eyes closed.